It's the kind of crime that freezes the blood, a betrayal so vile it defies comprehension. A mother accused of trying to sell her own infant for sex. This is not a horror movie. This is real life. This is Morgan Stape. In the quiet city of Indianapolis, Indiana, where children should be safe and innocence preserved, an unthinkable case has sent shockwaves through law enforcement, advocacy groups, and the public alike. A 32-year-old woman, Morgan Stape, now stands at the center of a depraved and deeply disturbing child sex trafficking investigation. The charge? Attempted child sex trafficking, a Level 2 felony under Indiana Code, carrying a penalty of 10 to 30 years in prison and fines of up to $10,000. But beyond the legal jargon lies a far darker reality, one that suggests a mother, entrusted with the care and love of a defenseless newborn, may have offered her infant daughter to predators in exchange for cash. It began with a digital whisper. In November 2024, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, received a disturbing tip from an unexpected source. Snapchat, the social media platform where users assume their messages vanish without a trace. But this time, the traces remained. The account in question? Username Morgan Stape. The content? 3 photos of an infant accompanied by a chilling message. You can have her for $400. Have now, rest after. I'll send my address. I do live alone. Her dad is not in the picture. This grotesque message set off a multi-agency alarm. The FBI was brought in. And what they would uncover next would be more harrowing than anyone could have predicted. When federal agents confronted Stape on November 11, 2024, her response was immediate and unwavering. She denied everything. She claimed her Snapchat account had been hacked, that she'd lost access to it days earlier, possibly around November 2 or 3. She insisted she had recently bought a new phone and that someone else must have been responsible for the messages. I don't have access to that account anymore, she said. I reported it. My account was banned. I got an email from Snapchat saying it violated policies related to online commercial sex. Her excuse? The old phone had been sold. She couldn't reset her password. A man had even contacted her on Facebook, asking why she had blocked him after sending money. But investigators weren't buying it. Using a search warrant, investigators obtained data directly from Snapchat's back-end systems. What they uncovered destroyed Stape's narrative. The Snapchat account had been accessed multiple times, on October 10th, 26th, 28th, 30, and 31, from the same IP address and the same iPhone that was registered at Stape's home. That was just the beginning. Images and screenshots linked to the account included a PayPal screenshot featuring the name Morgan Stape, a Cash App request for $30 for baby formula, a selfie of Stape taken inside her own car, a photo of a bedroom with a distinctive wooden bed frame, the same one found during a search of her home. The technical evidence formed a damning portrait of digital guilt. It wasn't just messages, it was visual, time-stamped, geolocated proof that the same woman, claiming innocence, was deeply entangled in a horrifying crime. In total, investigators recovered over 7,000 messages exchanged between October 29th and November 1st, 2024, a mere 4 days. But the volume and content spoke volumes. One message appeared 81 times. Would you be interested in buying my nudes so I can get baby diapers? The frequency and repetition suggested not only desperation, but a pattern of behavior, an intentional, calculated effort to solicit funds through sexually exploitative means, with her child disturbingly part of the pitch. This wasn't a random incident. This was premeditated exploitation. By November 22nd, 2024, during an interview with Child Protective Services, the facade began to crumble. Under pressure, Morgan Stape made a crucial admission. I lied to the FBI. She confessed that she had not changed phones, as she had originally claimed. The phone in her possession was, in fact, the same one used to access the incriminating Snapchat account. Why did she lie? I just wanted the FBI to leave. That single statement, part confession, part collapse, shattered her own defense. It was enough. Combined with the forensic evidence, social media activity, and her own admissions, authorities had what they needed. Morgan Stape was arrested and formally charged with attempted child sex trafficking. Under Indiana Code Section 35-42-3.5-1.3, a person over 18 commits a Level 2 felony if they knowingly or intentionally sell or transfer custody of a child for purposes of prostitution or sexual exploitation. Former sex crimes prosecutor and law professor Marian Brocha explained, "Attempted trafficking is an inchoate offense. The prosecution must prove intent and that the accused took a substantial step toward committing the crime, even if the act wasn't completed. That step could be a message, a price tag, a photo, anything that shows clear intent and preparation." Brocha also emphasized the power of multi-agency collaboration. With the FBI, local police, and tech companies all involved, the prosecution has a robust chain of custody. That's critical in a case hinging on digital evidence. When cases like this come to light, society is forced to confront a monstrous truth that not all predators hide in the shadows. Some live in plain sight. Some are parents. According to Professor Brocha, unfortunately, yes, there are cases where guardians exploit their own children. These crimes happen in silence, in places we never expect. Children are the perfect victims, voiceless, defenseless, hidden. This case isn't just about Morgan Stape. It's about the systemic failure to protect the most vulnerable. It's about the terrifying possibility that the home, where a child should be safest, can become the scene of unthinkable betrayal. In the modern landscape of digital crime, few elements are as pivotal or as damning as electronically stored information, or ESI. In this deeply disturbing case involving Morgan Stape, a young mother now accused of attempting to traffic her infant daughter, ESI forms the cornerstone of the prosecution's argument. From social media footprints to digital money trails, authorities are relying heavily on Snapchat messages, PayPal records, and Cash App transactions to piece together a timeline that may reveal horrifying intent. In an era shaped by AI-generated content, deepfakes, and hacked accounts, the stakes are high, and the standards for evidence are more complex than ever. But herein lies the critical challenge. Morgan Stape claims she had no control over the very accounts being used to incriminate her. According to the defense, her Snapchat account had been compromised, hacked, hijacked, and revoked on or before October 18th, the date some of the most incriminating communications were allegedly sent. If this is true, what was the exact date the breach occurred? Can it be verified? Are there email correspondences or digital footprints proving she lost control before the criminal content surfaced? As investigators attempt to unravel the truth, it's clear that more is needed. More digital records, more subpoenas, more search warrants, to definitively tie Morgan Stape to the alleged crimes. Ownership, access, control. These are the digital trinity at the heart of this prosecution. The accounts in question, Snapchat, PayPal, Cash App, allegedly hosted conversations and transactions related to the trafficking of a minor. But did Morgan Stape truly operate them? Was she in possession of the devices used? Did she ever have dominion or control over those payment platforms? The prosecution insists the accounts bore her image, her name, even stylistic markers unique to her online behavior. But a photo alone is not a confession, nor is a name. Defense attorneys argue that someone else could have impersonated her, perhaps even planted evidence, with the aim of framing her for an unspeakable crime. This raises the stakes significantly. If financial transactions were processed, prosecutors must tie those transfers to a bank account or digital wallet that Morgan Stape directly accessed. Otherwise, any claim of fabrication or identity theft will cast doubt in the minds of jurors. Legal experts suggest that if prosecutors wish to secure a conviction, they need to go further. Device forensics, IP tracebacks, metadata analysis. These are the tools required to eliminate ambiguity. Without them, reasonable doubt lingers. Can one lie discredit all truth? It's a question at the heart of Rule 608 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. Known in legal circles as false in one, false in all, the doctrine holds that a person's prior falsehood can be used to challenge the credibility of everything they say thereafter. Morgan Stape has allegedly admitted to lying to federal agents, an admission that could irreparably damage her standing before the court. But is it enough to prove guilt? In a criminal trial, credibility is currency. The jury, the ultimate fact finder, holds the power to determine not only if a witness is trustworthy, but whether parts of their testimony are believable, or none at all. They may decide that Stape lied once out of fear or confusion, or, more damningly, they could see that lie as a window into deeper deception. Should Stape choose to testify in her own defense, her prior falsehood could be used against her, not just as an isolated misstep, but as evidence of a dishonest character. In cases involving, behind every digital platform lies an obligation, one that's both ethical and legal. In cases involving suspected child sexual exploitation, companies like Snapchat are not just encouraged, they are required to alert law enforcement. Snapchat, like many social media platforms, falls under the umbrella of mandatory reporters. When content or communication flags a suspected child abuse, the platform must notify the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, which often leads to federal investigations. And it's a good thing they did. Without that digital alert, authorities may never have stumbled upon the 7,000 damning messages now in their possession. 7,000. A staggering volume. But is it actually abnormal? In today's era of constant digital interaction, where individuals, particularly younger ones, can send thousands of messages a month across multiple platforms, context matters. Were these 7,000 messages part of a broader social dialogue? Or were they specifically related to trafficking and exploitation? Only a detailed forensic analysis will answer that. July 11th, 2025, Morgan Stape stood before the court, not as a predator, but as a mother. A woman who introduced herself as a stay-at-home mom of 7, scraping together survival through public assistance, DoorDash gig work, and her mother's support. She admitted to struggles, to depression, and to hardship. She said she hadn't worked since December 2024, when Child Protective Services, CPS, took her children away. They had only just been returned in June 2025, barely 1 month before her arrest. Her voice quivered as she spoke. She acknowledged using her mother's DoorDash account and creating an Instacart profile to make ends meet. But for prosecutors, these admissions may signal something more ominous: desperation. Could financial instability have driven her to consider unimaginable actions? It's a line the state must tread carefully. Poverty is not a crime. Desperation is not guilt. But motive remains a central pillar of prosecution, and economic strain can provide a compelling narrative to jurors hungry for answers. The court didn't hesitate. Given the gravity of the charges, the judge imposed a $200,000 bond and issued a strict no-contact order, particularly concerning 2 of Morgan's children. This wasn't just about physical distance. The order prohibited all forms of communication, including texts, phone calls, and even third-party messages. Why? In cases involving witness tampering or child endangerment, no-contact orders are vital tools to prevent undue influence. While an infant may never testify, the potential for psychological manipulation, even unintentionally, warrants protective action. From a legal standpoint, such measures are not rare, but they do underscore the court's concern about the possibility of Morgan interfering with the investigation or those it aims to protect. How does poverty intersect with allegations of child sexual exploitation? It's a question fraught with danger. Prosecutors must be meticulous not to criminalize economic hardship, nor equate financial distress with criminal intent. Just because a person is poor does not mean they are capable of or likely to commit monstrous crimes. However, if prosecutors can provide specific, compelling evidence, for instance, a sudden financial crisis, a need for immediate cash, or explicit messages indicating money as a motive, then they may cautiously build a financial narrative around the crime. Still, any misstep could be fatal to the case. Jurors may resent the implication that struggling parents are inherently suspicious. Worse, appeals courts could overturn convictions tainted by prejudicial inferences. The timeline is chilling. CPS removed Morgan's children in December 2024. They were returned in June 2025. By July, She was under arrest for allegedly trying to sell her newborn online. What happened in between? We don't yet know what prompted CPS to intervene, or to reverse their decision just 6 months later. But if their return contributed to further victimization, Child Protective Services could face harsh scrutiny. How much did social workers know? What were the warning signs? Did they miss something crucial? Prosecutors could seek to use Morgan's CPS history as character evidence, but that too is risky. Under the rules of evidence, prior bad acts can't be used solely to prove criminal propensity. They must have direct relevance to the current charges. Still, the sequence of events is haunting. The return of the children may have unknowingly placed them in a far more dangerous environment. A pre-trial conference has been scheduled for September 15, 2025. No official date for a jury trial has been set. Legal experts anticipate a flurry of defense motions to dismiss the complaint, to suppress evidence, and to demand more detailed records from Snapchat, PayPal, and Cash App. Defense attorneys will likely push for ESI audits, challenging the provenance of messages and transactions. They may argue insufficient linkage between the accounts and the accused. Every shred of doubt, every unexplained digital footprint, becomes a tool in their arsenal. Prosecutors, on the other hand, must prepare to connect every dot, from ownership of accounts to physical access of devices. Their goal: prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Morgan Stape wasn't just a name on a screen, but the intentional author of a heinous crime. In the digital age, truth doesn't just hide in shadows. It leaves trails, encrypted and scattered across platforms, devices, and metadata logs. Whether those trails lead to guilt or innocence remains to be seen. As the case against Morgan Stape unfolds, the world watches with breath held. Is she the victim of a high-tech framing, or the architect of a plan so horrific it defies comprehension? The evidence is vast, the stakes are life-changing, and the verdict? Still undecided. If you've made it this far, you know just how disturbing and complicated this case is. But we want to know your thoughts. Could Morgan Stape be a victim of digital manipulation? Or do the facts suggest something far darker? Leave your theories in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the True Crime Archives channel for more real-life cases, cold reads, and digital justice exposés.